Hi, I'm Heather from booktubes, and today are my favorite retellings. I am such a sucker for fairy tale retellings, I'm not gonna lie to you. I fell in love with Ella Enchanted as a kid. In fact, my daughter's name is from Ella Enchanted, and I read that like 3 times before I realized it was a Cinderella retelling. But in my defense, I was a youngish kid and there were 3 balls and not just one, and that was confusing. So there you have it. But I've always been in love with retellings. They're just a great spin. They're better than the Hollywood 25 Spider-Man and Batman remakes. You know what I'm saying? So obviously Beauty and the Beast is probably the one that has done the most, followed I would say by Cinderella. These are some of my favorites. Beauty and the Beast does appear, but not all of them are Beauty and the Beast. So favorite retellings, here we go. Number 1, I have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sorry, I know it's not a pure romance book. I know I mention it a lot, but it's probably my favorite retelling of all time, so it must go on this list. It also deserves the place of honor in the number 1 spot. Not that I rank them, but you know, just saying. So I love the second book the most, like many people in the series, but this first book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and our beast is a fae, which I love a fae love interest. So we have a human girl who is a hunter. She goes into the woods and kills a wolf. The wolf was a fae in disguise. She assumed it was a fae, and that's why she killed it. So she killed it with hate in her heart. And then his lord comes and demands a life for a life. So she has to go live with him in Prythian. We're just gonna go with Prythian. I'm gonna pronounce everybody's names however I want anyway, so why not? He has to get her to fall in love with him to lift a curse on his people. She doesn't know that. Obviously, everybody in his court has a mask that won't come off of their face, and they've been like that for 50 years. So I love this retelling. There's so much more to it, but it's just epic. And if you like retellings at all, if you like fantasy romance at all, I really feel like this is a fantastic version. Most people have probably read it. It's definitely been on the top of bestseller lists. But even if you're strictly a romance reader and you like fantasy romance but not straight up fantasy, this has so much romance in it that I really feel like it fits on the list. Next, I have The Golden Dynasty, which is Fantasyland number 2 by Kristen Ashley. Each book in this series follows a different couple. Each man in the series is a leader of a different country in this parallel universe from ours. So our main character comes from America in modern times and is transported to this parallel universe, which is more medievalish times, but kind of depends on which court you're in, kind of what it plays on. This one is for sure 100% a retelling of Khal Drogo and Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. And the Khal Drogo in this book follows all his own laws, just like the one in Game of Thrones. So he's not like a modern day hero. There are things that he does that are not okay. And there are things that he bends for her, but there are other things that he's like, no, this is the way my people do it. You're just gonna have to cooperate as my queen. There's a lot. And just like Khal Drogo, I will tell you that the beginning of the relationship is not consensual on her part whatsoever. She went to bed in her apartment, woke up in a pen with other women. There's a bride hunt. Literally, you run, whoever catches you and keeps you without somebody else killing them, they then have sex with you and you're their bride. That's what happened to her. She didn't want it. She was not happy. I believe she's 35, which to me makes a difference. You're not talking about a 17-year-old virgin who's captured and abused and then falls in love with her captor. You're talking about a grown woman who knows what she's doing and knows that what is happening is wrong and knows that she has to make the best of her situation because she's never going home. That's definitely where the book starts. It fully does go into a happily ever after. They absolutely do fall in love. He absolutely does treat her right at the end, but the beginning is rough. There's not going to be anything super graphic. There is another character, a side character who suffers domestic abuse, and there's nothing our main character, can do about it because of their society, and that plays out. So if that's a trigger for you, I just want to let you know that that does happen in the book, not to our main character, but there's definitely sexual assault and domestic abuse triggers in the book for the main character and side characters. So, but if you read a romance book written really well that is like Khal Drogo and Khaleesi, this is it. You can read the books out of order. This is the second book, but there is a little bit of an overarching plot through all the books, so up to you what you want to do. Number 3, I have Firelight, which is Darkest London, number 1, by Kristen Callihan. This is almost magical realism or fantasy and historical romance combined. So we have a historical society like Victoria, England, and you also have supernatural gifts. Lord Benjamin Archer is actually cursed, and he hides his disfigured face behind masks, like many of the historical romance Beauty and the Beast retellings do. He's accused of murders, and they're very grisly, and she sets out to prove that's not him, and they fall in love, and she has her own powers, and there's like a cult and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed it. I liked that it wasn't just like he had a disfigured face. There was more of a tie-in to Beauty and the Beast than that. And I enjoyed their relationship and their interactions. Number 4, Desperate Measures, which is Wicked Villains series, number 1, by Katee Robert. I love this book, and I still haven't bought or read any of the other books in the series, so I don't know what is wrong with me, because clearly I need to. This is a Jasmine and Jafar retelling. So Aladdin is the bad guy, Jafar is the love interest. It's kind of like a mafia type setup, and all of the different gangs in the city are headed by different Disney villains, and they're the ones that get the girl, and I kind of love it. So this one is definitely a type of BDSM retelling, and there is dubious consent play. So she actually does have consent, but has to do specific things to say no. Everything else, fighting, saying no, running away, doesn't count as saying no. So there's that. It's definitely for a specific niche of people, but I love it. I adore it. I thought it was great. If you saw the Jafar and Jasmine hourglass scene and were like, well, that's hot, this book might be for you. Last but not least, I have Once Burned, which is Night Prince number 1 by Jeaniene Frost. This series is a spin-off of another of her vampire series, but I read this one first, totally fine. The main characters in the other one do show up in this one, but they're a couple. It's not really that spoilery. This is a Vlad the Impaler / Dracula retelling, and he is the Prince of the Night. He is the biggest, baddest vampire of them all. She has her own powers that she's trying to deal with. She doesn't know what's going on. So it's Dracula and a human, and it was so good. Basically, if you want her to fall in love with the king of the vampires, who's not a good guy necessarily, but it's going to be fantastic to her, this is good stuff. It is 4 or 5 books that all follow the main couple, so you don't get their complete relationship in the first book, but I think there's plenty of romance in every single book. It's not like, okay, we've been in it for 3 books and we've gotten nowhere. It's not like that. And that's it. That's some of my favorite retellings that were romance specific. Obviously, for many years I read young adult, fantasy, and I have a whole bunch in that category, but that's not what this is about. So what's your favorite retelling? Are you a fan of retellings? Probably. If you watch this entire video, you at least don't mind them. So let me know if you have any recommendations for me. Definitely let me know. You know I love an alpha male. So give it to me. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.